that morning broadcast that kickstarts your day on a very good note. And right here on TV47, we do not do anything short of that. We'll be taking a look at what is happening in the world of news, as well as just reminiscing on some very, very important things. Remember, it's a Thursday. We also get to hit the gym and also have a conversation as pertaining to finances and also looking at what is happening in the country. There's so much to look into: education, politics, and of course so much more. So we welcome you to be part and parcel of this conversation. The hashtag, as always, is Morning Cafe at Linda_Lela TV47 KE, and I'll be sampling some of your comments as we continue with the broadcast. The Standard newspaper, as always, the Daily Nation and the People Daily are the papers that we look at this morning, and then we shift gears to that candid conversation. We look at the IBC stories, we look at the education sector and how it dawns tough on Meru governor, that is Kawira Mwangaza, after the members of County Assembly unanimously voted to eject her as the governor. And this then would say her fate lies at the level of Senate. We'll be following up keenly to see whether then the Senate comes from recess so that they also get to have this conversation as to whether they save her or not. So as we get to this, we ask us once again to be part and parcel of the conversation. The Standard newspaper and the Daily Nation here. Let's start with the Daily Nation and look at the key stories that have been captured right there, as you can evidently see. And we speak of rally driver in ICU after brawl with lover, and Sar Khan, popularly known as Kalulu, who was allegedly assaulted by his lover and fellow driver Maxine Wahome, and of course in fighting for his life at Nairobi Hospital. And yes, this guy is getting me laughing while I am talking about a very tough story. Yes. Apologies for that. And it's a story captured on page 8 at the level of investigations, and the rally driver in a coma as at now, and so it becomes hard to pose any form of challenge to, or at least to make it tough for this lady, because of the fact that the person in hand is in a coma and is not able to speak of his difficulties or his experience. And away from it, that is a story that has been captured on page 8. As we have said, it's being investigated. We'll be getting details of that as it continues to unfold. The front page of the Daily Nation, the biggest story: Ruto's kitchen cabinet and inner circle. President William Ruto has crafted a tightly knit team of trusted allies consisting of security chiefs, financial and economic experts, information technology gurus, and business moguls in a bid to help shape his legacy and the list of confidence in a mix of the new and the old. This is captured on page 4 and 5, and as well just to make sure that he has a government that is functional. And definitely the year is almost coming to a close, and while the year is coming to a close, all eyes are on him as to how he's going to kickstart 2023 and what then he will be doing for the people of Kenya. As of course they say that time is moving 100 years, perhaps 100 days, sorry, to his government. He should have achieved a couple of things that were captured in his manifesto and the promises that he gave the people while campaigning. Away from it, we have the MCAs of Meru County pushing for that impeachment conversation, and that is about 112 days into it. All the ward representatives voted to impeach her on claims of gross misconduct, abuse of office, and gross violation of the Constitution and county laws. And when we say all, we're talking about 67 who were present at the House on this moment of impeachment, short of 2. I mean, there were supposed to be 69. And also this, having gone through the process of public participation, her fate lies with the Senate. TSC Jobs rules out as Machogo speaks on pay, and tutors who have remained jobless at the longest since graduation will get the first priority when the Teachers Service Commission hires this month, while those already serving as interns in secondary schools will automatically be absorbed into, that is to teach in junior high. And we get to see what plays out at the level of education. This has been captured extensively on the back page of the Daily Nation, where TSC releases guidelines for hiring about 35,000 tutors. And of course, these teachers who remain jobless the longest since graduation will then get the first priority. Also, remember that the CEO for Teachers Service Commission also this week, had a chance or had her moment, with the members of the National Assembly as they were questioning why there's been this aspect of delay even after that approval by the House. And we look at what the Standard newspaper details, and the Standard newspaper: Rally Ace Magazine out on bail for domestic violence. As well, that we have looked at a story captured on page 7 of the Standard newspaper. And another one on the front page: Kenya revs up a nuclear plan in new US deal. And that is in the world of business, knowing very well that President William Ruto has tried his level best to speak of these deals and lucrative matters, for that lucrative deals, as well as bilateral agreements to make sure that these two nations then can benefit from conducting various businesses. And of course, Morocco does unthinkable in World Cup. It was an interesting match for those ones that watch, and of course it is now France versus Argentina. That is the level of the final. Defending champions saw off a resilient Morocco 2-0 yesterday. Mbappe's side now face an acid test against Messi's led Argentina. That is a Sunday, a match that everybody then will be watching will be keen to watch. Perhaps even those ones that are not lovers for football will be one for the very last day. That is the finals of the World Cup that have taken a whole month. And yes, it will be interesting to watch who then takes this home. Masit, I will drop a bombshell on polls. Exactly 5 days to the start of the Muchelule Tribunal. That is a sitting. Commissioner Irene Masit has declared she will spill the beans on the conduct of election and the aftermath, and says, I am not ready to quit, and Kenyans should expect a bombshell during my appearance before the Judge Agri Muchelule-led tribunal, which she maintains has already been predetermined, or how they're going to handle it is already predetermined, and therefore she does not have confidence in how they're going to handle this. Also faulting the committee that was tasked to oversee this process. This as 3 of her colleagues decided to take a backseat by resigning, and she says she will be the last man standing to face the tribunal. We'll be following up keenly to see what plays out as pertaining to this. And of course, we have a different story that is as to the question of education. That as well we have briefly touched on. Be realistic, CS tells a union as teachers demand 100 billion, and government and NAT leaders are headed for a cash crunch or clash after Education Cabinet Secretary said there is no money to meet their new demands. This is captured on page 6 of the Standard newspaper. Meru MCAs vote unanimously to eject the governor. This also is a conversation that we'll be having. And briefly, to look at what it is that the People Daily details, perhaps more or less the same stories that the other papers could be carrying. Let's briefly have that look and see what these papers detail. Mr. Director, if we have the People Daily app, yes, there you go. And it's tough rules on the question of education. And yes, for teachers, a day after it emerged that members of parliament want to influence who is hired for the 35,000 new teaching jobs, and TSC has outlined a raft of requirements for candidates to be considered successful. That we'll be looking at as we continue with the broadcast. But away from it, MCAs also vote to impeach Meru Governor Kawira Mwangaza, and of course that one we have also touched on. And Kenyan lobby group sues Facebook mother's farm. Of course, we've 200 billion, claiming the platform promoted hate in Ethiopia. Those are the key stories as well as captured on the front page of the People Daily, expounded on all these other pages. And so we'll be looking at them alongside the gentlemen that will get to join me for this very conversation. It's important to follow up and see what is playing out at this space of news. And then we'll definitely be making sure that we are keen to give you more updates on this very same stories. Also on the world of football, as you have evidently seen, the World Cup historic moment is being waited for. That is slated for Sunday. And allow us to shift that and briefly take a look at what we have in terms of what we've prepared by the editorial team. And Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has launched the first commercial flight that is from Nairobi to Kakamega town, as he pledged government support to the local airline industry. The DP saw off the inaugural flight by Skyward Express to the town in Western Kenya at Wilson Airport in Nairobi less than a week after President William Ruto commissioned the newly rehabilitated Kakamega airstrip last Friday. Now, while reminiscing the challenges he faced the region years back when he served as a district officer in Kakamega, the second in command said the flight would make it easy for the travelers and business people to commute between the town and the city. And on his part, transportier Kipchumba Murkomen said that the new flight route indicated the country's second economic growth despite previous challenges. And of course, the governor, Fernandez Baraza, together with other leaders, received the maiden flight of the Skyward Express company.
It's a cost of doing business to make it easy, to save time. And after long deliberations with the leadership of Western Kenya, the president did instruct his CS to liaise with other stakeholders. The president went out of his way to reach out to Skyward Express to partner with the people of Western Kenya for this service. I want to say that this new policy of continuous engagement is what is going to make things move in this country. The leadership of Western Kenya has been crying for many years. The people of Western Kenya have been crying for many years, but there was nobody to give them an ear. Exactly a week, less than a week after the president listened to them, this is today happening.
Now, Jiga's infestation has been reported to affect education of a section of residents of Trans Nzoia County, notably in Jamnur slums, the Kwanza constituency. Cases of school dropout associated with Jiga infestation have been reported. Boniface Baraza reports.
This is the painful reality that welcomes you in the quiet Jamanur slums in the outskirts of Kitale town in Kwanza constituency, Trans Nzoia County, where young and old are infested with jiggers. The locals here argue that poverty is taking a toll on them and that dreams of many have been shattered due to jiggers infestation, and the situation is dire.
Dudu inatufamia mpaka watoto wanaumia miguu, vidole inaisha, wanatoka makucha miguu, hata ukiwaosha kila siku huwa inawaumiza, waendi shule, hawana amani kwa darasa, mpaka walimu wanaanza kuwadharau, wanasema mrudi nyumbani muoshwe.
Maadhirika sana kwa sababu ya dudu, ni kwa sababu ya kukosa, tuseme manyumba zetu mnaziona vile inafanana, haina mabati, haina chochote.
Some of them are even unable to walk or work because of wounds in their feet.
Na wana amekula hata watu wazima, wazee wakubwa, na takuwa hata kesho irudi tena ifanyike, na kesho kutwa ndio tuhuwe hii pitu saidi itoke hapa.
This situation has prompted the stakeholders through the Lilian COE Foundation to initiate anti-jiggers campaign targeting slum areas with bigger population.
Na tumeona watoto wanashindwa kwenda shuleni hata wakati huu ambapo wamepewa kazi za ziada za CBC, hawezi kufanya kazi hizo, manake wakula miguu mpaka inawalemaza, na wengine pia mikono wanashindwa kuandika.
Tumewahimiza kwamba waweze kuzingatia usafi wa hali ya juu. Zile dawa za kunyunyizia pia zitasaidia kuua wale wadudu kwa maeneo yao.
Leaders argue that all stakeholders should look for a lasting solution to the problem that poses a serious threat to livelihoods.
Inaathiri elimu ya mtoto sana kwa sababu kitu cha kwanza kutembea kwenda shuleni ni problem. Tumesema tusaidie ili wakuwe pia na concentration kwa shule ili waweze kuperform vizuri, wakuja wasaidie wazazi wao. Na tumehimizana hii problem ya gigas tutamaliza before muhula wa shule watoto wafungue shule.
Tumeshukuru sana Mama Sioi kukuja kutukomboa, yani kutusaidia.
More than 100 residents who were attacked by gigas in the slum were treated. Bonfas Barasa, TV47, Trans Nzoia County.
Now, ASCC is holding a 3-day anti-corruption program for the Board of Directors of NHIF, led by the board chair Lewis Nguyai, to deliberate the state corruption of NHIF and reform measures towards accountable health system.
It is our mandate to ensure.
Since the inception of the transformation at the NHIF, its leadership has put integrity as one of its key pillars in efficiency delivery, as corruption in the parastatal has been marred with graft and failures in the past.
We now have to get the personnel who are right for those positions. So one of the things that we are transforming on is to get more of the direct service delivery officers who, for example, will be more actuaries, more caregivers.
We want to see whether people at the board level of management of institutions embrace this culture change. And as you know, when it begins at the top, it rolls down to every person in the organization.
The chair of the NHIF categorically citing fraud as a great impediment haunting the health insurance sector, where inflation of figures and masquerading has been on the rise.
We have now a centralized health information management system that will be running in every single service point that we are in. So basically it means that if we are buying one syringe at Nairobi Hospital at a certain price, it should be the same price at the government hospital. So it standardizes and it reduces the costs completely.
With the team here alluding confidence after 100% transition to biometrics that has now strictly curbed the issue of fraud in the medical facilities.
Our public education awareness is geared towards making the Kenyan know that participating in that is just making health very expensive.
That has in essence curbed that issue of impersonation or bringing somebody who's not a member to get the services of NHIF claims. The second thing that we have done is now we are 100% e-claims, again from August of last year.
Nguyai added that in a matter of time, the issue of domicile of patients to facilities, as is the case, will be resolved. But for patients moving to other parts in a period greater than 90 days, may transfer their outpatient services.
As Kenyans become more mobile, we are trying to look into ways in which we can move from that capitation model to now more for a fee-for-service model, where you can be able to get services anywhere.
I'm not the one holding everybody.
Reporting for TV47 from Naivasha in Nakuru County, I'm Willie Dennis Njero.
Now, in less than 100 days in office, President William Ruto launched the 50 billion hustler kitty that is meant to boost small business owners. Now, the loan, which is now 14 days old, also marks the deadline to repay it, with many Kenyans now decrying low amount of money given.
On 30th November, President William Ruto launched the Financial Inclusion Fund, dubbed Hustler Fund, one of his major agendas during campaigns and also a promise he aimed to fulfill in his first 100 days in office.
I now officially launch the Hustler Fund for the Republic of Kenya.
On Monday, President Ruto highlighted that there were 15.4 million subscribers on the platform, with 7.54 billion shillings having been lent so far. Our savings hit close to 400 million shillings, with 1.2 billion shillings having been repaid.
Ila interest wenye wanakata iko juu sana. Wanakata 30 bob, alafu wanatuambia ni savings. Ukituma kwa M-Pesa, Safaricom pia wanakata. So hiyo kitu inatupea challenges kama zile wafanya biashara wadogo wadogo, tena ni wana boda boda.
However, many Kenyans are disappointed with the amount that they can borrow, as the threshold for most of them is between 500 and 1,000 Kenyan shillings.
I think the government should sit down and restructure the way they should give us this money. The least money we should expect from the government is at least 30,000.
Many small business operators say the amount is not enough to run their businesses.
Tuseme kama ile less kabisa na kama 5,000, alafu mtu apewe period, grace period, tuseme kama 2 months or 3 months.
Kafikiria napewa pesa ya maana, nikapewa 500. Tangu hiyo siku message kwa simu kila mara lipa, na imeongezeka. Sasa hii nikiangalia kwa simu yangu ile message wanaleta imeongezeka masenti mpaka imefika sijui shilingi ngapi.
If a customer will not have paid the loan within the required time, they will be added an extra 15 days before the increment of the interest rate to 9.5%. The borrowers who default will also have their Hustler Fund accounts frozen. Flora Limuki, TV 47.
Now, with grade 6 pupils expected to transition to junior secondary schools early next year, education stakeholders are troubled about the government's preparedness to oversee the transition, even as Parents Association oppose the move to do away with boarding schools. Colin Sulsweti with more.
The learners.
Civil society organizations under the umbrella of Elimietu Coalition held a workshop today, bringing together education stakeholders including Teachers and Parents Association to deliberate on the state of education in the country at a time when grade 6 pupils are set to transition to junior secondary. A report released by the coalition indicates a myriad of challenges facing the sector.
We're talking about ineffective BOMs, boards of management, across the country. We're talking about teacher inadequacy, unfavorable teacher ratios. We have talked about issues regarding training and teachers being inadequately trained, especially even on the matters of CBC. And right now we're talking about transition.
They're also worried about students with special needs, saying the government has done little to ensure proper infrastructure in schools to enable such students learn without any difficulties.
We go to current schools right now. Our schools do not have facilities for special need education. We need to have what called an integration, or inclusion and integration of special need education and the other normal learning kids.
They further argue that there was no public participation as well as stakeholders' engagement in the plan by the Ministry of Education to ban boarding schools in primary schools, terming the announcement by Education Permanent Secretary Belio Kipsang as roadside declaration, with representatives of the Parent Association opposing the idea.
Done a lot in developing some of our kids, and some who are being sponsored, they are actually going there. Some who are coming from disadvantaged families who cannot be able to have an environment of learning. They have gotten an environment where they can be able to learn and become people in this particular country.
In their recommendations, the coalition want national schools done away with and instead categorize schools in terms of different pathways of study they offer, with teachers to receive training that will enable them identify different pathways learners will take.
And also train our teachers who will be actually delivering this CPC program in primary schools, in junior secondary, to know how to identify and say that you can take this particular pathway. So
stakeholders also want clarity on how junior secondary schools will be managed, considering they will be domiciled in primary schools. Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education teachers want junior secondary schools headed by different management.
It's good that we distance it from the primary so that it is handled by a different principle.
Stakeholders under the umbrella of Elimietu Coalition have gathered today to deliberate on the status of education in the country, with the take-home message being there's still a lot to be done to better the education sector in the country. Colin Sulsweti, TV 47, Nairobi.
Thanks, Collins, for that. Teachers now want a 60% salary increase, citing the rising cost of living. Teachers Union COPET says the increment is long overdue, as Beatrice Watari details.
Teachers are now demanding a 60% raise on their salaries. Speaking when he officially opened a forum with the members of the NAT Association, the Siaya County Director of Education, Nelson Sifuna, who represented the Minister of Education, said the proposals may not be viable considering the economic pitfall the country is in.
I call upon your leaders to be realistic in reading the signs of the day, to consult widely and ensure that all deliberations have the learner's interests at heart, bearing in mind that our economy is currently in dire straits.
Copet Secretary General Akelo Misori, who was speaking in Muranga, adamantly said the pay rise for the teachers is long overdue, adding that teachers equally deserve a pay rise like other workers.
Resolves that the CBA must be reopened for 2023 because the teachers demand a pay rise of between 60 and 140%. Terms of those teachers must be improved, not to use those teachers as cheap labor for what we have seen in the advert, that about 20,000 would be working as an interns for over a very long period. That one is not a professional way of handling professional issues at a critical time when we are now implementing competency-based curriculum in grade 7.
Meanwhile, TSC has said it will hold discussions with the teachers' associations to ensure that the recommendations presented before the commission are considered and discussed in detail. Reporting for TV47, my name is Beatrice Watari.
Now, there are over 30,000 teachers who are hopeful that they will be absorbed as employees by the Teachers Service Commission, TSC, next year, and the competition for the slots is becoming tighter as members of parliament have begun grassroots lobbying for their constituents to apply for the positions, while at the same time discouraging non-locals from applying from their constituents. And as Sharon Baranga reports, TSC hopes to fill in vacancies in public schools experiencing a shortage of teachers.
Mwiki Primary School in Nairobi, a public learning institution, has over 1,000 pupils with one teacher employed by the Teachers Service Commission, TSC. The rest of the teachers depend on parents to pay their salaries, a situation that has become a burden to parents, and so a handful of them met to decide the way forward.
Tuko na shida mingi sana sababu hata walimu ni sisi tunajilipia kama wasasi. So far ndio tuko na mwalimu mmoja wa TSC na tuna walimu wengine 13 wenye tunalipa. So tunaomba kama tunaweza saidiwa at least tuletee walimu ndio mzigo at least kuwe kwa rahisi.
Yangu kwanza ni kumshukuru mheshimiwa Ronald Karauli ambaye leo amekuja akatulipia walimu mwezi wa 11 na Disemba ambao tulikuwa na arrears. Wazazi ndio wamekuwa wakilipa walimu na kukakuwa na changamoto kidogo. Kwa hivyo walipokuwa wakienda holiday hawajakuwa na mshahara. In fact leo ndio siku yao ambayo imekuwa ni ya kwenda wakisimali nyumbani sababu kumekuwa hakunuki kitunguu kama kwa watu wengine.
Kuna watoto wengi kwa hizi shule. Kwa hivyo lazima tuhudumie hao walimu ndio waendelee kufundisha. Hao wamepata salary ya miezi kama 2. Sasa nimejitolea nikuja at least niwalipie hiyo salary. Wanafunzi wetu hapa performance yao pia iko chini sana. Ratio ya student to teacher ni 85 students to every one teacher kwa shule zetu hapa Kasarani. Tuko na only 14 primary schools, lakini zote facilities zao hakuna kabisa.
Fanya kazi, utaweza kufanyia kazi. And because you gave me this opportunity.
The ongoing teacher recruitment has been politicized, with members of parliament now calling upon their constituents while holding meetings and urging them to put down their names, which will be presented to TSC. At the same time, they are discouraging non-locals from applying for the teacher vacancies.
I've been left out for some time because one thing, I work in Kiambu County and my ID reads that I come from another county. So every time there is employment, I'm left out.
Mahali mtu alipigia kura, hapo apewe kipaumbele au priority.
In the reasoning together we have agreed that the time we will be pushing for them to be employed or hired by TSC, first I've told them here in Thika, they need to have come from Thika. Because this opportunity is being given across board and the entire country.
The status quo has put some members of parliament on the spot and are now beginning to feel the pressure from their constituents who are seeking to be employed by TSC. On Tuesday, the issue of legislators pushing for their constituents to be employed by TSC came up during a meeting between the National Assembly Committee on Education and the Teachers Service Commission.
But I just wanted that we agreed, colleagues, that we have TSC come with a conclusive report on this recruitment of these teachers, the 30,000. So that if we say, for example, how many are you recruiting in Nandi County, then they would give us a breakdown. And what is the process? Because, Chair, you've seen letters flying all over in social media. Our colleagues, some of our colleagues writing letters to teachers that they should assemble in the TSC county offices, sub-county offices, for them to recruit teachers. And you know, I remember this morning, teachers from Meru County were asking me, where is your letter? Why haven't you sent us a letter that all the teachers who have not been recruited assemble in Meru County? So, you know, we have to get a clear process. What is the process? How many teachers are going to be recruited? What is the number?
Last year, I think, we had the MPs from Narok and Kajiado actually visit the office, and they said the same things I'm hearing here, that we don't take care of the locals, we import people. They even came with the names of the locals they thought we had not employed. But we checked one by one, and all of them were in the list of the employed teachers. We give locals the first preference.
The deadline for the application for the teacher vacancies is in 2 days. TSC hopes to fill the teacher shortage experienced in public schools by recruiting over 30,000 teachers and 5,000 interns. Sharon Baranga, TV 47.
Busia County Governor Paul Chuma will know whether he has a case to answer on a petition challenging his election's victory. This is after Otuoma's legal team asked the court to strike out the evidence, saying it was filed outside the stipulated time frame. Otuoma's opponent and former Nambali Member of Parliament Sakwa Bunyasi's lawyer, Katwa Kigen, however, opposed the application.
Busia Governor Paul Otuoma will Thursday know whether he will shed off illegal baggage weighing down his gubernatorial reign when the Bungoma High Court rules whether he has a case to answer or not. In a case, the petitioner and former Nambale MP Sakwa Bunyasi is challenging his election victory. The court was on Tuesday invited to make a determination by Otuoma's legal team, which applied to have the petition struck out on the grounds it was filed out of time and that the governor won the election fairly.
And my lord, this particular authority falls on all falls with the situation that is before you, my lord. In this particular case, parties filed 2 different documents.
Witness affidavits and documents which we, in our view, are filed out of time.
The former MP, represented by lawyer Katwa Kigen, however challenged the decision, prompting the court to set Thursday's date. Bunyasi wants the court to order a recount of the votes and annul Otuoma's victory.
We've been asked to strike out parts of this petition that were filed outside time. You will need to determine and establish what was filed out of time.
In the August 9 gubernatorial election, Otuoma was declared winner with 164,478 votes against Bunyasi's 92,144 votes. Otuoma is an ally of ODM party leader Raila Odinga, while Bunyasi is an ally of Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi.
So when you see us speaking together, don't think that kuna mtu amechukuliwa. My party leader is still Raila Amolo Odinga. But now Ruto is the president. Na mimi lazima niletee watu wa Busia vitu. So don't misinterpret these things.
Bunyasi was elected MP for Nambale in 2013 and served for 2 consecutive terms before contesting the governor's position, whose petition now hangs in the balance. Apul Kamau, TV 47.
Bar operators selling counterfeit alcoholic drinks have been put on notice, with the national government declaring an intensified nationwide crackdown on illicit brew, counterfeit drinks and drug substance ahead of the festive season. The exercise will bring together the Ministry of Interior and national government, and National Police Service and the National Authority for the campaign against alcohol and drug abuse, NACADA, among other state agencies. Will be part of this. Moige William with the report.
Prepared The crackdown on counterfeit alcoholic drinks, illicit brew and drugs come as the country enters the festive season, with the Ministry of Interior noting the exercise is timely. The government noting the country's traditional experience of a spike in consumption of alcohol and drugs during the merrymaking period. Interior Principal Secretary Raymond Nomolo, while launching a consultative meeting on how to roll out the exercise across the country, bringing together all regional commissioners and police commanders, noted the crackdown will involve the Ministry of Health, Kenya Revenue Authority, Kenya Bureau of Standards, Anti-Counterfeit Authority and county governments.
We have Christmas coming up and then of course the New Year. And there is expectation that there will be a spike in the increase of substance abuse, and hence the need for the various teams that are convening here today to come up with measures and the mechanisms of ensuring that we have this under control.
Speaking at the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, Omolo said the crackdown will only target illicit alcohol and drugs while protecting licensed and legitimate businesses trading in alcoholic beverages, calling for support and collaboration from county governments.
That whatever alcohol that is being sold, whatever drugs, whether it's tobacco, meet the requirements of the law. And this is not to make it difficult for businessmen who are involved in this trade, but just to ensure that they operate within the provisions of the law.
Also present in the meeting was Nakada, stating previously the government mounted similar crackdowns, the exercise raising concerns over proliferation and substandard and counterfeit alcohol and the sale of brands with fake standardization stamps and outlets with deplorable health standards.
We have also carried out a few other surveys that we share with them about emerging substances of abuse. And it clearly shows where, in which region, some of these preferences are in abuse of those substances.
What we need to do and what we are doing with our security agencies is to work around the clock to ensure the safety of Kenyans. Of course, like I've mentioned, we are in the festive season.
The National Authority for Campaign Against Alcohol and Drug Abuse also highlighted some of the counties that they have mapped out to have a crackdown on illicit brew, stating majority of the areas are within the Mount Kenya region.
But I can tell you alcohol continues to be a big problem in the country, followed by tobacco, cat, and the cannabis. Those are in that order. They are problematic substances and they are responsible for a lot of mental issues. Yeah.
The consultative meeting, bringing together different state agencies, follows the directive by President William Ruto to enhance the fight against production, consumption and sale of illicit alcohol and drugs. Mwige William, TV 47, Nairobi.
Meru Governor Kawira Mwangaza has been impeached. 67 members of the county assembly present voted for her removal, accusing her of gross violation of constitution and abuse of office, among other claims. And as Elizabeth Atieno now reports, the fate of the embattled county boss now lies with the senators.
Embattled Meru County Governor Kawira Mwangaza's political light was on Wednesday dimmed.
I vote yes.
After 67 Meru County ward representatives unanimously voted to impeach her over alleged gross misconduct, abuse of office and nepotism, following the appointment of her husband Murega Baicho as the patron of the Meru Youth Service.
Members, we give Madam Kawira a taste of our own arrogance medicine and we serve with what?
I want to say that in front of us, the clips that have been played by through DMK, the issues that have been mentioned in this motion clearly depicts mutilation of the law. It clearly shows that the law is being raped in front of our very own eyes, we who should be the defenders of this law.
Other grounds listed for her removal were illegal appointments, incitements, bullying, mobilization of unlawful riots against MCAs, and violating public finance management laws and misconduct relating to the nomination of CECs.
When I listened to the people of Abogeta,
a large percent of them sent us with one thing, that they were tired of the fights, and they are tired, Mr. Speaker, of having a leader who is not working with other people. And they sent us with one mission, and they sent us with one voice, that please go and represent our voice and say that we don't require Honorable Kawira Mwangaza as the governor of Meru.
The governor, however, declined to appear before the assembly, where she, through her lawyer Mutuma Gishuru, threatened to sue the speaker and the assembly of contempt of court if they proceeded with the impeachment motion, arguing that the matter is still active in court pending hearing scheduled for the 25th of January 2023. The High Court, through Justice Wamai Cherere, had on the 30th of November 2022 barred the impeachment motion, citing the procedure illegal, which is in violation to the governor's constitutional rights.
They will go down the history of Meru County and the history of this republic as a day when leaders or the members of this honorable assembly chose on which side of this war they will be.
Governor Kawira Mwangaza was among 7 female governors elected in the country during the August polls. She was able to secure her victory on an independent ticket, making her the first woman in Meru to be elected governor after garnering 209,158 votes. And now, the Meru ward representatives have dismissed claims that the governor was facing impeachment due to her gender.
Many people might think we're impeaching Kawira because she's a woman. But it's better to call a spade and not a big spoon to protect our future generation. That we are here as women, we are not fighting. It's not a gender fight, Mr. Speaker, but it is a fight, Mr. Speaker, of leaders who are not adhering to the Constitution, Mr. Speaker. And that's why we are saying as women, this is not a gender fight, but it is a fight for leaders who are not adhering to the Constitution, Mr. Speaker.
Governor Mwangaza's fate now lies with the senators, who will vote to either uphold or dismiss the impeachment. The Senate will decide on whether the matter will be heard by a committee of 11 members or plenary.
Whichever way the Senate goes, they will have now 10 days to hear the governor, to hear the move of the motion. So I will personally be there. Then the governor or our representatives will be at the Senate during either the committee or the plenary hearings. After that, the Senate now is expected to vote on the resolution of either the whole House or the committee now.
If upheld, Governor Mwangaza will be the first governor to be impeached under the Kenya Kwanza administration.
So if the report finds the governor guilty, then now the Senate will vote. And all the members will have one vote. So the 67 members of the Senate each will have a single vote, and we require a simple majority to have the motion approved by the Senate.
The ongoing stalemate between Governor Mwangaza and the MCAs was instituted after the legislators walked out on the governor on grounds that she was allegedly belittling and ignoring the demands. The governor has since maintained that soon after assuming office, she and the MCAs were at loggerheads over the Ward Development Fund.
Speaker, sir, we have heard from the mover that Governor Kawira was accusing the MCA, saying that they were throwing stones to her, and when you look at the clips, it was opposite, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Governor Kawira is a governor who cannot move out of our way to look for some partners to help this county.
Governor Mwangaza unsuccessfully vied for Buuri constituency parliamentary seat in 2013. However, this did not deter her passion and determination of transforming the lives of our people. She later got elected in the 2017 general elections as the woman representative for Meru County and served as a member of the powerful House Business Committee and the Departmental Committee for Communication, Innovation and Information, where she took to task government institutions in a bid to push for Meru County's full representation. Elizabeth Atieno, TV 47.
All right, thank you, Elizabeth, for that very story that we'll also be looking at as we continue with the broadcast. But even before it gets to that, I think it's important that I first of all introduce the gentleman that I have on set, and then we'll also get to discuss some matters, education, and so much more. The gentleman then, Professor Macharia Munene, foreign policy analyst, as well as Dr. Mbai Peter, governance expert. These gentlemen are scholars, and I think the best people to discuss matters education in the country, you know, taking us through the phases that have been there for the longest time and the transitions that we have witnessed and how instrumental these transitions then have been. Also later, we'll be looping in Member of Parliament of Matuga, that is Honorable Kasim Sawa, the engineer, who will be joining us virtually. But before we get a hold of him, gentlemen, good morning and thank you for creating time. Yes, the education sector, you are exactly at the heart of it. I would confidently say that I'm speaking to scholars and beneficiaries of this sector, and equally, you know, of different curriculums, perhaps of different nations, and, you know, in relation to what we have in the country. As we look at the hula baloo, the push and pull, the discrepancies, and also the goodness that we have in our education sector today. There is a story that speaks of how the teachers are calling upon the TSC to make sure that they adjust their salaries upwards. That is one thing. Another one, TSC being, of course, targeted by the members of parliament for failing to pick around 35,000 teachers that the National Assembly had already approved for. But of course, the Teacher Service Commission taking their time with obvious reasons that they presented to the National Assembly. What's even worse is the fact that we know very well that we have a transition that is very historic as we commission the competency-based curriculum, as we expect a report from those ones that are, the President's party to this, reform. And we ask ourselves, are we getting it right? Is it necessary that maybe we go back to the drawing board, or say, you know what, take a chill pill first on this competency-based curriculum and then get to learn it, get to understand it, and then perhaps think of whether we proceed with it? Or then there's never a time that we're going to be, ready for it. Dr. Mbai.
Thanks so much, and a good morning to our viewers. Like you said, there are about three issues quickly about the whole issue about education. One, let's understand what is the purpose of education. It's actually to impart this person. And when you talk about education from the word go, can we emphasize on something we call value chain? The entire value chain of education is that when you start from the ECD, you get into the job market. That is the purpose. You have to understand, what are we talking? Why are we putting all this money in education? Because once we do it halfway, you not enjoy. Because you have to look at education as a whole value chain.
Cycle.
From where you start, what is the objective? Is to have that person into the job market or with skills to either do their business or appropriated in the job market. So one, there is this issue of recruitment. The president was very keen, right from election time, that you're going to hire more teachers. Now, the first phase is here, about that 5,000. I don't like this idea. I don't know where it's coming from. The TSC is the one mandated to recruit. Just like, and please, let's save the MPs from all this. Yes. Let people know. Yes. It is a TSC that is supposed to, and they know how to do it very well. Right. They have been doing it all along. I don't know why this particular one, there's a lot of Hurabaro. It is TSC who knows how to do this thing. People have already applied, or rather they're in the process of application. They know how to do it. I mean, they are there. That's a body that's organized. And I'm glad that the chairman was very clear. Please, can you, and she asked the CEO, please reiterate who is supposed to. So that one, let's remove politics out of it. Number two, of course, there's this tendency.
What do you mean we can, before we even get to that point, yes. I've just carried a story this morning that speaks of how members of parliament are even positioning their constituencies or their constituents to, get, the leverage.
The best you can do, Linda, in terms of, as a representative of the people, is to inform them. Is to sensitize them, like what we saw the Denyoro do. Call all of them and sensitize them. Indicate to them what are the requirements. You can call the local TSC directors to just come and build capacity, inform them, and all that. And then look at the gaps. So what we are saying, the biggest thing you can do, even the local MC or even the governor, you can try to sensitize the local teachers who meet their qualifications that yes, there is these opportunities. That's number one. And then we leave, it's very clear, interns and all that, depending on the money that is there. We need to celebrate that because, it's better you get an internship because it's a paid up internship, right? So what we are saying, but also there's an idea that has come with it. The teachers who have been there, they are feeling more teachers are coming, yet our pay is now. That's another story. The issue about salary increment, let's not be mixed it up with this. That's another story. They have their unions, right? There's how they have been negotiating, depending on how the government gets the money. That's another story that should not be attached to this, so that we don't have a mix-up of bags at the same time. So we continue encouraging the teachers. Let them continue fighting for better salaries, fighting for better terms. That is allowed. So let's not be mixed here. Those are two issues already, right? The first one, yes, recruitment goes on. Now the third one, the whole issue about CBC. From where we sit right now, Linda, we are all in agreement. We cannot go back. What we can do is to better what is on the table. I mean, we cannot go back. It's to say, okay, fine. There are issues that, it was rushed, a lack of enough consultation. But yes, here we are. Can we now put spanners, Can we try to straighten and try to see what can be done? Yeah. And it's clear, one of the major decisions is that junior secondary is going to be domiciled in primary schools. Yeah. Okay, so what is it to do? Two things quickly. Can we have sufficient teachers by January 23rd? Number two, can we have the classes? And the president has already made the MPs to tell them, look here, there's no other fund. The fund is the CDF. So please, can you make sure, with all the troubles, of course, we expect a bit of, because, a class will not be done like this. But if you can have a laboratory and, for example, some 2 or 3 classes for that, we are making progress, Linda, according to from where we sit, because we have to give room to movement and changes and see how they move on. So to me, if we can move on that trajectory, let all those groups, okay, there's another issue that I've seen. The Parents Association are saying, no, we don't need to abolish, burdens in totality. Yeah. What am I saying? There needs, when government gives a suggestion or the government leaves to serve the people. So when the PS says this is a government position, come on, it is open for discussion. Yeah. Let's see how far it can go. But remember, we cannot live, Linda, in a society without policies and guidelines. Right. We must have some order. We cannot say, you can do it as you wish. Yeah. It's a matter of discussion, but as matters stand, as soon as possible, we must have one direction to say, this is how things are going to go. For the better, remember, for the best interest of the learner. Right. That's the bottom line here. Does it, inconvenience the learner then when stakeholders, therein hold different opinions and different and tight opinions to a point that there's so much confusion and we do not know what direction to take as a people? Professor, you have been, in the education sector in the country and perhaps, done so much in trying to understand what happens globally. It would be in order for us to just try and sit down and think of these 2 scenarios and just see whether we are getting it right. Allow us to respond to that after this short break.
Well, do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, aangalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know?
Welcome back to the broadcast. Professor Macharia Munene and Dr. Peter Mbaya with us this morning as we also wait to loop in Engineer Kasim Sawa Tandaza. And Prof, I am told that yes, we have engineer ready. I'll be looping him in shortly. Professor, I'd love to know your opinion on the competency-based curriculum. And I know you've spoken to it, perhaps not on set, and for purposes of the people who are watching this morning, you have witnessed the transition from the curriculum that you had back then to 844 and now to the competency-based curriculum, and all these discrepancies in the education sector. What do you make of them?
It's tragic that we have this kind of mess. It shows poor thinking on the part of the policymakers. One of the accusations about CBC is that there was very little consultation with any, and the stakeholders did not know what was going on, and they still don't know what is going on. That's a tragedy. Educational review is good in itself, but there should be a serious purpose, other than the whims of we're saying, let's change this, let's change that. See, when you look at the 844, when it was brought in, it's the same argument that we are hearing in CBC, that children are not learning how to be self-sufficient, how to do things on their own, that they are learning too much as something else. It's the same argument. So maybe the question we should be asking, what happened to 844? If the principles were the same, why then this? So first of all, investigate what went wrong, because the arguments are the same in that sense. Then the ability to match desires with capabilities before you start doing things is lacking. We are now having this issue. There are no classrooms, there are no teachers. There are no laboratories. Okay? These are issues that, and then the parents are complaining, how are they going to be burdened with that? So it is a really problem in terms of policy. And that blame goes straight to the Ministry of Education and those responsible for it, not the students, not the teachers, not the parents. It's straight to the Ministry of Education to be blamed for it. Now, as to the purpose of education, of course it varies with the place. But basically every society tries to educate its own children to reproduce itself, to continue with its values, to ensure that it does not disappear as a society. And the children, so being trained or educated, they make a distinction between education and training. They train them to think for themselves. And they go to school to learn how to be responsible citizens and to be able to be self-independent, not so much to be employed. Of course, we hear a lot of things. Oh, we are producing people who cannot be employed. That's not the purpose.
Okay.
The purpose is to have people who are, energetic, independent-minded, critical thinkers, and they can create situations which will then create the jobs. And when they create, they expand the economy. And once they do that, the jobs will be there by them. There are those people who will seek to be employed. But we need people who can think critically. And that's one of the mistakes we make. Because let me say this. We've had a lot of statements. Oh, we don't need people in the humanities and in the arts. That's rubbish. Okay? Oh, we just produce some technicians. It's okay, we need them. But to say you don't need thinkers, no wonder you're in a mess. Because when you see who is supposedly making policy, they are not capable of thinking beyond the technicalities. And when that is the issue, we end up in this mess we are in. Because had this thing been thought properly, we will not be where we are. So it's unfortunate that the government says we are going to hire 35,000, which is very good and they should hire. We should not even be talking about it. It should be automatic. You know, as soon as somebody gets out the teacher training school or the university, there should be a place for them because we don't have the teachers. So there is a mismatch somewhere. To say that there is no money, that's poor planning. You know, it's poor planning, simple as that. So what I'm saying is that let's stop beating about the bush. The blame is right at the top. And so they should rethink themselves and how they are going about it. Stop being technicians and become serious policy makers, because that's what is going on.
Right. Yeah. Okay, and we have Engineer Kasim Sawatandaza, who's the Member of Parliament of Matuga, joining us virtually. Mheshimiwa, I have been to your constituency and also just trying to see how CDF works, how, you know, as a Member of Parliament, you are involved in the aspect of education for your people. I have personally witnessed and heard stories of, you know, the difficulties that parents are really having, even in times of transition. It's hard to, you know, afford the basics. And we ask ourselves, competency-based curriculum is quite demanding. I saw you know, just trying to dish out uniforms to parents and to students, and the difficulties that they were going through. And I asked myself, how then can they get to this space of us adapting the competency-based curriculum in such an environment where even the basics are not attainable?
Good morning, everyone, and good morning, Professor Unene Macharia. It's been a while since we were together, Professor. Before I go to your question, I hardly go against what the professor says, but I think for now he'll allow me to interject and say technicians are also thinkers. You know, he put it in a way that engineers can't think, you can't make policy. I think I need to take exception on that. With that, a lot of due respect to a good professor.
You know, he's an engineer. Yes.
Linda,
a quick rejoinder. Let's allow. Yes.
I did not say that engineers are not thinkers. But
no, technicians, basically. Technicians are...
Technicians, no. I make that point deliberately. There are people who are very good technicians.
Right.
And there are also technicians who are also thinkers. Policy, the philosophers. So combining the philosophy and the technicalities is what is needed.
Yes.
Not just somebody who can just fix the bolt.
Right.
But even know how to make the bolt.
There you go. Convincing enough? No.
I would want to put it this way. Maybe another point which I also think I will take it further. The issue of the rolling out of the CBC. I think this one should be taken squarely on the desk of the former president, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. Remember the Minister of Education. Professor talked about the Minister of Education. At the right time, the Minister of Education, the CS then, said, we are not ready to roll out CBC. I don't know whether you can remember that point from the Minister of Education. And because of the politics, you know, we tend to take everything politically, whether it's a technical side, whether it's a philosophical side, politics takes center stage. The CS was forced to rescind that decision and said, after 2 days, if I'm not mistaken, he came out and said, now we are ready to roll out CBC. So the problem, and it's not only with CBC, most of our projects, most of our programs are done from the political angle and not from the philosophical or engineering position. There are so many stalled engineering projects in this country, not because the engineers fail, but because those who are supposed to implement, facilitate, took it politically. One just says, I'm going to put this here, no budget, no nothing. Of course, they get some deposits, contractors, you know, all that. So to me, I blame this on the politics of this country.
Mheshimiwa, how can this be separated? Because you realize that, those ones that have been here long enough will tell you that you can't separate politics from anything that plays out in the country. It is the bloodline of every activity in the country. So if we are to blame it on the politics, do we then say that we separate this in totality, segregate politics from it in totality, which over time has proved to be impossible? So how do we gel them in so that they work in order and that will not get to spaces where we feel like politics is now interfering?
No, you see, politics comes at it's like the policy. It's like the end product of all what has been said by the technical people, the technocrats, the experts, and then a good president. You know, I've always said this, and I'll say it to the last minute. This country will prosper or go to the dogs depending on the CEO of this country, and that is the president. So the CBC, certainly the former president did it out of, just to say now, during my time, we changed it from 844 to CBC. If you are looking at CBC and 844, as the professor said, there wouldn't be much difference. There wouldn't be much. There wouldn't be anything that would say we'd want to change if we had followed 844 the way it was envisioned. Probably would only have added computers, because that time we are not dealing with computers. But here we are again. So the solution to this, hopefully, is the current president now, Dr. William Samoei Ruto. If he decides to go the way his former boss did, then we are not going to get out of the woods. But I can see some light in the tunnel where, for the meetings that we've had with him, he normally comes with the technocrats. If it's about housing, he comes with somebody in the housing department to explain how the affordable housing will be done. If it is about health, he comes with the technocrats. So for this one, I'm yet to fully see how the task force recommendation will be implemented. But for sure, we cannot afford CBC from where I sit. It is good. It is the best for this. It is going with the trends. We cannot avoid computers now. We cannot avoid IT. But how many people? You see, that is the problem. When you're in Nairobi, literally everybody has a smartphone. If you're in Mombasa, basically one, but the majority of Kenyans don't live in Nairobi or in Mombasa. They live in the rural areas. One does not have even a kabambe, you know. I was talking to some people yesterday in my village, and I was asking, how many of you have gotten the Hustler Fund? The majority up to now don't know that there is a Hustler Fund. They are still on the previous platforms, you know. And one will need somebody to be assisted to get that code, to use that code so that he can access it. So right now we need, and this one is a plea to His Excellency the President, to sit down, forget about what has happened, forget about ulishindwa mwenzako alianzisha ulishindwa nini, but critically look at these things. We don't have the money to roll out CBC. I sit in Parliament, we do the budgeting. Currently, we cannot even say, can Parliament budget for money so that we can build more classrooms, so that we can employ more teachers? The 35,000 you are talking about is a drop in the ocean. Every school can hardly get one teacher. Most schools are lacking up to 7-8 teachers. And now we are celebrating 35, which is good because it is the highest ever. But it can only be one teacher in one primary school or in one secondary school. With subject combinations, it's a total mess. Can parents afford to pay for those extra teachers from PTA? Mine can't. Those in Nairobi could. In fact, most of them could be having theirs in private schools, but mine can't. So for the CBC, this is an appeal to the president. Let's get the everything right. Even if it means this is the way we'd want to go, but for now, we can't afford. And we are hoping in this administration, the economy will improve. All that has been put. Then it can be, it can be maybe implemented at a later date. But for now, it's a total mess.
Well, we'll be watching to see.
I think, Linda, I hear what the MP is saying, and we are more or less saying the same thing. But quickly, yes, we all agree. Actually, that when the minister pushed for saying that we are not lady, we all know she was kicked out, or rather, she was transferred from the ministry. We also know, Berio Kipsang also couldn't cope, and he was also kicked out. But now we are in another dispensation, with another government. We're asking ourselves, because we cannot keep on now blaming the former president, what can we do? And that's where we are right now.
Isn't Belio Kipsang still there?
No, he came back now. He's back now.
Yes,
because
he's back
that time,
yes,
he was opposed.
Yes.
So we all know that. And the issue of saying, no, look, I want something for me. Like, but that's not how things go. And I keep on saying, the biggest problem in Africa, we make laws or change policies to suit us, not the next generation. But now, that is because we are now here, we have to manage this thing. And that's why we say, remember, when the campaigns were going on, everybody believed that when the president came like this, he was going to abolish the whole thing in total. But then the question was, look, already we have started, we have invested this much. Do we kill everything and go back? So we are trying to balance this thing right now. Yeah. Noting that much as we are talking here, Linda, in a few weeks, all the kids are reasoning, all the teachers are reasoning, and we have to move on. So like the NMP said, we may have budgetary constraints, but can we say, where are we? And how do we now from here? Improve on the president and the working party and all that now. What is it now we can do to salvage what is remaining and make the best out of it under the circumstances? No forgetting a bit about where we came from. And that's why I'm saying, one, yes, adopting the norm by the highest number. Let them start. Linda, let the MPs, and the MP didn't mention that. You know, they were told categorically, kindly, we need you. Come on board, the CDF, directed to the primary schools. Let's have the infrastructure learning, right? Let's kick all those things in the 2 months we have, Linda, so that by the 23rd, we have some, let me call it this way, some semblance of order. We have some semblance of we must move on, because moving is that's what we need to do. And engineer, I want to say this kindly. There's no big battle between, it's a big topic, Linda, between engineers and humanities. So what my professor is saying, there has been this issue of, we don't need humanities, we don't need bachelors, we don't need the university, my university scrapped all the common courses because they are not so much necessary. We need to go put a lot of weight. If we go that way, we'll go back to where we were. We need humanities and philosophers and political scientists much as we need engineers and doctors and everybody else. So we should not also say, because thinking and talking, PR, marketing, communication is what drives engineering, doctor, medicine, veterinary doctors and all that. So we need a balance of that. This may not help because time is historian.
Let's allow him 30 seconds. 30 seconds, Mheshimiwa.
Yeah.
Yes, you see, you are putting it is like engineers don't think, and I think that is where the problem is with
I think we scored that settle. We settled that score.
Yeah, we settled that. We settled that. I think we settled that for now.
Let's settle that for now, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah, but now coming back, my thinking therefore, because we need to get very clear. The purpose, and we are talking here, but we all agree on one thing. What is objective? Why are we doing all this? We say, yes, there was a mistake, but here we are.
But we really need to go away from this gamble, because it's a total gamble, and we can't keep gambling with the lives of our children.
But now, Linda, look here, in governance, remember we have been saying, let's separate politics and leadership and governance. Yes. Now we have a president who is being looked upon by everybody. And I like what he's saying. Everything rises and falls on leadership, Linda.
Yes.
Everything rises and falls on leadership. You get it wrong on the top, everything else crashes down. Yeah. So we are saying, we are hoping this time around, because of the consultations that the president is keen on having with a lot of stakeholders, this time around, we get it right. The first thing he did is to say, no, we cannot kill this thing. Number two, let's do, where is the best place for these kids to go? Like he's saying in Matuga and all that, we cannot have those kids going to junior secondary. They are better being in the primary as we work out how things, so that we are blending now the mess that was created by the rush implementation and the reality on the ground. What we want to appeal also, all of us here, like he's saying, with the president on the steering wheel, hoping that he has demonstrated he has the best interest with all these other stakeholders, because we have to, 23rd, we have to open schools, we have to get the teachers who can, let the BOMs comes in hardy, let the MPs help also in getting through bursaries and all that for the teachers who will be hired by BOMs, so that now we can move on and begin bettering what we have on the table right now.
Fair enough. Let's leave that for another day. And I mean, conversations are on whether then they are going to get this, demand that they place on the table. Equally is a question of wait and see. Professor, Meru County.
It's interesting, Meru. because sometimes Meru are bombastic people. And what's going on there is really an issue of where the power of impeachment and why of the impeachment, particularly why. It is not proper that simply because the MCAs or the MPs disagree with a particular person, then you rush to impeach. So far, it remains to be seen why the impeachment.
Yeah.
Kawera herself has not conducted herself in the best of ways.
Yes,
in order
that's
to,
for sure. Yeah.
You don't go around hiring your husband to be in charge of things and expect people to be happy. But the whole thing needs to be rethought properly. Should impeachment be that easy? We don't like Linda today, so
no.
They say exactly what's the offense, and is it an impeachable offense? And then once we say that it's an impeachable offense, what's the procedure, and can courts interfere?
Yeah.
Because impeachment is a political process. Yeah? It's not so much a criminal. It is criminal to some extent, but it's mostly a political process.
Yeah.
Should courts interfere with that process? And when it goes to, of course, the provision is that once somebody is impeached, and impeachment is nothing else but to be said that you are thought to have committed an offense.
Yeah.
You are accused now you are an accused, but not convicted. So we make that distinction. The conviction comes into when you go to the Senate,
yeah,
which behaves now as a court. Now, if the court called the Senate thinks that you really ought to go, then you ought to go. We have had some confusion in the past because the counties have impeached some people.
And
then they go to the Senate, and they've been let off by the Senate, which is proper, according to procedure. But then the court have interfered with that. So we need clarity on this thing, because impeachment is a political process. And maybe what should be looked at when impeaching somebody. But somebody is not impeached until, somebody is impeached and is accused of something, and then he's removed when he's convicted or she's convicted in the Senate when that happens. And so we need, what I'm saying is we need to rethink the whole thing. Let me add one just a little bit about education. There was time when the teachers were respected. In almost every village, the teacher was
respected.
Extremely. Yes. Nowadays, that's not the case. So we need to rethink that in itself. Yeah.
There's a problem. All right, there you go. Let me take it from you and allow engineer first to come in, and then we come back to you. You know, what it is that we used to learn in school, and I know everything and anything we've learned in school. Mheshimiwa, they said that no sooner had she settled in than, you know, a successful impeachment motion was leveled on her, successful to the level of the county, and perhaps quite a task for the Senate, which might, you know, as well be called or recalled from races to have this conversation. What do you make of the events that are taking shape in Meru County?
Thank you, Linda. When it comes to critical thinking, and this one, I'm glad Kawera is not an engineer. She's a bishop or somebody in the arts field. I think she got it wrong right from the beginning.
Yeah.
As a politician, when you've gone through the electioneering period, you definitely make more enemies than friends. So it is upon you, and that's why I'm saying I think she got it wrong on herself. I don't think the issue of the husband and the kid is a big issue, really. But the issue is the politics up to 9, having won, having beaten Kiraitu, who nobody would have imagined that would have been beaten. And she didn't move fast enough. From where I think the problem is, she didn't move fast enough to consolidate that political base. And I think this is the lessons that one will learn for those who are aspiring to be governors or whatever. You know, for me as an MP, I can walk away with it because the recall clause, it's so unfavorable to the electorate that I don't have to worry after an election, even if I win by 1 vote.
Yeah.
Even if all the MCAs in my constituency are not from my political party, they are not my friends. Even if the governor, my recall clause is very different. But for the impeachment process, this is where Kawira got it wrong. She should have moved first to consolidate those MCAs. Of course, everybody has his own or her own personal interest. Those are things that can be managed. She should have managed them. Other governors are managing them. And I think that is where the problem is. Otherwise, what remains now is a constitutional process. It could be a legal process that will take its course. But what we've seen, again, when it comes to the Senate, where Professor has mentioned, there are times when I personally even don't agree with their verdict based on what has been brought before them. It seems that there's some bit of, I'm looking for, I don't want to use the word corruption. It's too early in the morning. It will leave a bad
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil it. We're more or less moving to festivities now. But honestly, the whole process of impeachment, even up to the Senate, I think we need to relook at it on how it should be conducted. Because sometimes, even when they talk about whether it's going through a committee or whether it's going to go through the full House plenary, the history has shown that when you are taken to committee, it's like you want to be forgiven. You know, somehow you are given time to cut deals and reorganize yourself. When you are taken through full house, it's like now they have already decided they are going to chuck you out. So these are things that going forward, I think we can do better in the whole process. But my take on this, Kawira got it wrong politically after the 9th of August.
All right. And yes, Daktari, do you suppose she will survive? The Senate will definitely have it tough to deliberate on this matter. And just why is it that Kawira Mwangaza has not managed to tone down these voices? That the MCAs were determined to a point of going to the people to ask for, their opinions on that. There was a public participation process that was conducted. And we're talking about 67 out of 69, or 67, 69 was supposed to be in the House, so 67 attended, and all of them went to that. Allow us to take a short break and then we come back to that.
Yep.
Sure, mnanitia break aje.
How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga.
And music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga.
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga.
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga.
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga.
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga.
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga.
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening?
It is the Senate does not go along with the impeachment, rejects it. Then she still has to do the political thing.
Yes, how is she injected back?
Yeah, so she has to go back and plead with these people and have some tea.
And you want to tell me, Professor, she has not tried that because
well, she started badly.
Yes.
Some conflicts need mediators. She can't do it herself. She cannot call
but it can be done. There's no problem. It can be done. But it needs good thinking, care, and concern, such that the county MCAs do not feel slighted, because they do feel slighted.
Yeah,
so much.
And the Kawera needs to come down to earth in some of these things, because the governance is a political process. It's not a technical thing. It's a political process, so which means having to discuss things with the opponent or the people who don't agree with you and convince them that what you want is what they want. And then you go along. Those who do that succeed. So it is necessary for Kawera and the MCAs to rethink their positions. And the Senate will help in the way they decide. If they decide that she has to go, then she has to go.
Then she has to go.
If they say, no, this is not good enough, then she has to go back and work with those people
to win them.
For the sake of Meru. And maybe there are people who can be listened to. I mean, it's not a Kifua thing.
Yes.
That's why we are talking about the thinking part.
It sets the president. Yes.
But let me finish that. Just 2 seconds. From where I sit, she should not go.
She should not
let
because it sets a very
let us manage this. We cannot get everybody along. We have 47 governors.
Yes.
We don't have that problem here, so we can say everybody has failed. Let us manage Mwangaza. Let's give another chance. But that can be done now only politically.
Okay.
And I imagine the senators, please don't vote to let her go. Let us manage it with the MCS. Let everybody reason to. There must be a way out.
This is historic. We have to acknowledge that because then it's us getting to understand devolution, and in such a very short time that this has successfully been done. Maybe we might need to revisit and perhaps put caps as to the duration, if at all, then that would be necessary. But we are all waiting to see just whether in 112 or more at that level of the Senate, then these days can warrant for a governor to be impeached, and what that would mean for the question of devolution. Because clearly right now, there's nothing that the people of Meru have gotten as pertaining to the new leadership. And it's 112 days when, they get into power, when they're campaigning, they always speak of, in my first 100 days, this and that is what I will do. Honorable Kasim Sawa Tandaza, I am looking at the papers this morning, and they speak of a very interesting piece as to Ruto's kitchen cabinet and the deep state. Are we just are we trying to sensationalize this in a huge way? Because for the longest of time we asked ourselves whether there is indeed an existence of a deep state with the other government, and clearly, is it a change of face? And now that we have the old deep state cleared and the new one then in formation, just looking at some of the faces, we're talking about the Gladys Bosholais of today, Katole Metito, Farouk Kibet. One can say Farouk Kibet really is a deep state based on how he's operated with the president. And we all know Farouk Kibet, even when we have not interacted with him, the likes of Meru Amboi, Felix Koskei, Raymond Omolo. What do you make of this?
You see, Linda, this issue of deep states was put to rest on 9th of August.
Oh, so there's nothing.
There was nothing like deep state. It was hot air. Yeah, it was just hot air. And we've moved on. So somebody is free to use any technology that would want to use. By the issue of deep state, I think it was put to rest on 9th of August. It was hot air, there's nothing like deep state. And even now, if one would want to put that system, assuming there is a system called a deep state, and now one wants to implement it, I think Professor Macharia, who is a historian, can tell us that history has shown us that even when you think you have a deep state, it cannot go against the will of the people. If there was to be a deep state, then it would have been during Moi's era when he wanted to hand over to the former president, but it didn't work. So history can show us that deep state cannot help you in terms of winning an election or moving forward. Two, Linda, it's quite natural that even you could be having your very close friends, and there's nothing wrong in that. What you discuss with your close friends, what you agree on your close friends, that is quite human. So while I'm a member of parliament and in Kenya Kwanza and in the government, certainly there are people who are closer to the president than I, and that's the natural way. So we're trying to single out somebody that this could be the deep state, this could be the one making the decisions. I'm saying it here loud and clear that the buck stops with the president. Wherever he gets his advice, the moment he says, this is what I'm going to do, he is held accountable. Kenyans hold him accountable for what he's going to do, not what Farouk told him, not what Koskei told him, and all that. And that's what I'm saying. I've not been a teacher for long, but there is this adage that the school will be as good as the headmaster. Now it's called a head teacher or principal. This country will be as good as what Dr. William Samuel Ruto decides to do for this country. But of course, in decision making, you need a lot of information. Where do you get this information? From the people that can give you information, from friends and even from enemies. If you can sit with them, they can also give you some useful information. Otherwise, the issue of the deep state, no.
Inner circle, deep state, I don't know, all these things. And I have heard those ones that are close and allies of the president, William Ruto. Some even telling you, unajua huwezi kufikia mdos kama hujaongea na Farouk.
I think before, because my professor here is a historian, he'll give us a historical. But I would say this in another.
Yes.
One, let's stop putting this thing like that. Sensational, putting headlines, Ruto's kitchen cabinet. Okay, one of the roles of the media, of course, is to poke, to throw stones in the water to see what comes out. Is it the crocodile or the frog? You must always try to understand.
We're always trying to see what is not being seen.
Actually, part of the work of the media is to try to understand, to shake the government, see what happens. So that now maybe they are hoping one of these guys they have put here will come out and give an interview and say, no, I'm not part of the kitchen cabinet. We have the Ruto government has so much work to do, and there's too much people to depend on to do this work. Remember, the same media, you guys, next week, it will be all about the 100 days, right?
Yes.
The issue of prejudice.
Yes.
You see, try to poke and see what can be done. One, this issue of kitchen cabinet is a creation of who you want to refer to. But what we know, the president has his government, right? For an easy understanding, from the CSAs to PAs, of course, the other structures of government coming in. And there are so many left of advisors. Now, on any topic, himself, he has said, I think the MP have just said, when he wants to come and talk about housing, when he wants to come and talk about finance, when he wants to come and talk about infrastructure and ICT, there are people who he comes with. Now, on various issues, there is a lot of, I can imagine like almost 20, 30, 50 meetings on consultations on different areas, on trade, on everything else. Now, there are people, by the virtue of their positions here, most of them he has listed actually. When you talk about Farouk has been there. Why don't you talk about the role of Farouk, how he actually helped? When he was nobody, to try actually to be with the president until he became president, when he was a DP. Now, people will be varied, of course. There's some people, because of the weight they carry, and their experience and exposure, who will be consulted more than the others. That doesn't mean, because when you create, let me tell you the danger. When, Linda, you create this thing of kitchen cabinet or inner circle or the most trusted aide or that, what happens? You expose, other people feel left out. That, me, I'm not. So, and then the other issue, that if I have to see the president, This is a person to see.
Yeah.
And that's how cartels come in. And I'm very sure from where I sit, that would not be the intention of the president to feel that he's being cut off. Because there are some people more powerful. And that's where people come in and begin saying, no, if you want to see the president, I'm the person. You see, that is what the president would want to demystify. Remember, when talking about bottom-up, is where everybody feels they have an input. Everybody can send a message or give some information, would you be taken up as a policy issue, if the matter is big enough. Right. So yes, it is a work of the media to poke through holes and stones and see what happens here and shake it up, of course. It's a good imagination. Even if I was an editor, even if I was an editor, it's not a very bad list of going to think who can we put here. Who else, they cover public service, they cover people. Even a very innocent chairperson, Meru chairperson, has been put in the kitchen cabinet.
Just how?
The governments work in many ways. But yes, there are people who can be consulted. There is input. I would, from my perspective of governance, Professor here, he can record upon. I don't know why actually he was left out from the working party as a historian, to bring that aspect of historian.
Right. You people did not like history anyway.
No. We have a problem with that. We are going to put him as our chairman. We have to make sure we put policies in this country that we respect humanities and things like history and philosophy and political science. Because we need that. It's only that Professor is using a very long term. When he's using the word thinkers,
he's now rubbing the engineers the wrong way.
But let's say all phases, all shades of studies needs to be respected. So yes, these are people who are helping the president. Most of them hold actual official positions. Okay. When you say House Controller, definitely he's a guy who is handling. He's there at the State House. Yeah, but there's nothing. I think from where I sit is that everybody has access. Everybody has an input to put. If people have a right to ask questions and define what the government is structured. But yes, nothing like that.
Prof, that this is just the media sensationalizing things, that this is just the media trying to read so much into all this and even looking at the names. Don't you think that this is a conversation that perhaps will be here long enough?
Well, it has been there before and it will be there in future.
Yes.
It's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And it's part of the media exercise to create stories, good things. But the issue of the so-called kitchen cabinet is not new. It's been there all the time for centuries. And it simply means whom does the leader, president, prime minister, or whatever it is, turn to, relax with, talk to, or advise on critical things. Somebody he or she can rely on and not feel betrayed. And once they have that, because you have the official people, the ministers, this and this, these are official people. But then when it's tough, whom does the president turn to and why? Then those are the ones you can talk about now being in the cooking place, so that they can eat together. But the others are official, figureheads, and they have their roles as advisors. So that is there. Another thing I want to point out is that there are two levels of government anywhere. There are the policy makers, those who are elected, like Mheshimiwa, congratulations for being elected. And you are now in the category of policy makers. And you can come up with a lot of good ideas. But the implementation is not yours. The implementation is the permanent government. And the permanent government is the bureaucracy. And sometimes the bureaucracy has different ideas on how to do things than the elected people. And when that happens, then you have this dissonance. Because the president, William Ruto, will say, I want this done. That's a policy statement. And he's allowed to do that.
Right.
And it does not happen. And you wonder why. It's because he's talking as a policy maker, the elected people, and maybe if there was not proper consultation with the permanent government, like earlier we were talking about the CBC,
yes,
that was a presidential pronouncement, but in the implementation level, there was no synchronization. So the permanent government has ability to frustrate the elected government. And that's something that, and it's not unique to Kenya. People should not think that it's a Kenya thing. No. You go to America, they will complain and say, wow, the president is there yelling, I said this, and nothing is being done. And so you have that as a reality that all people, the MPs, the president and his team, they need to know this if they don't know.
Yeah.
That there are those forces within the bureaucracy that are permanent. And they just watch you come, they smile at you and say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, and then they do nothing. So when we see problems arising, maybe it's because of that disconnect between the permanent and the elected. So when you talk about this kitchen cabinet, these are policy people up there.
Yeah.
And sometimes they wish things which cannot be done. Right. And then you wonder what's going on. The kitchen cabinet is a normal thing. And every minister, every administration we've had, they have had people like that.
Okay.
That you can always turn to.
Okay.
And the reason for it, they feel comfortable with those guys.
All right. And it's about 5 days or so before we are treated to a bombshell, if I would want to call it. And this, again, not just making of the media, but perhaps what it is that Commissioner Masit, says she will be presenting to the Muchelule-led tribunal. Just how far does she intend to go with this, and what will it speak to the indifferences that we witness in the IEBC? And, the fact that we have the 3 who've already resigned. Largely, whatever it is that she presents at the tribunal will be used either against even those ones that have resigned or not. Honorable Kasim Sawa Tandaza, what to expect from this tribunal that is set to question Irene Masit?
Masit is a true Kenyan. You remember some time back when a minister said he would rather die than resign. Yeah, he would rather die than resign. Of course, later on resigned and he didn't die. He's still alive up to now. So we have that history, and it's not a good one for that matter. That something goes terribly wrong in your docket. It could be the CS, it could be the PS, it could be a director of a certain company. Something goes terribly wrong. What happens in the developed world, one will tender his resignation and say, well, because of this happening in my docket, I resign. I don't think I can continue working under this environment. But in Kenya, it's like you can do anything, anytime, and still continue. Sometimes you're even rewarded for that. It's a very unfortunate situation. So Masit is a true Kenyan who will not resign. But from where I sit, something went terribly wrong on 9th of August on their part. And from where I sit, they should have resigned a long time ago, even before the petition was brought. Because how would you work under those circumstances if you really want to deliver on your mandate based on what happened on the 9th of August? Remember, the other 3 commissioners, their terms are coming to an end. A few days remaining, their terms are coming to an end. But for those, the 4 who are there, they should have resigned. I don't think she's going to have a serious desire to present from where I sit. I don't think from the happenings. And remember, these are the same commissioners who had joined the court at the Supreme Court, but they had nothing to offer. They didn't have any credible information, even if they were to collaborate with Zimi in terms of giving them information. I think if they had serious information, they would have given it out on the petition at the Supreme Court to aid the case of what Chebukati and the others.
That's just 14 days. Maybe they did not have much time to gather that, and perhaps this would be an opportune time for them to now.
You see, Linda.
Yes.
Linda, it is in the Constitution that if we are to present a case, it has to be within 14 days. What happened in 2007? The petition was presented in 14 days and it was successful because there was credible information out there. So this issue of time really does not hold water. So for me, I think she just wants to continue having the half pay. I don't know for how many days. It would be a good bargain, but for sure, she has. I don't think she has any basis.
All right. I am not ready to quit, and Kenyans should expect a bombshell during my appearance before the Judge Aggrey Muchelule-led tribunal. A quick short break, and then we come back to that to close it, right? Okay.
well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga.
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga.
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m.
All right, Professor Macharia Munene, engineer Kasim Sawatandaza, who's joining us virtually, as well as Dr. Peter Mai, are the gentlemen that we have on set. Now, this is the actual last lap of this. Dr. To imagine that there's going to be a bombshell more than what it is that we have seen is interesting to watch. And if at all this bombshell will not be convincing enough, then perhaps what happens to Masit? And if at all, then it is convincing enough and they give her a clean bill of health, what kind of picture does it paint, even for those ones that have already resigned?
The matter of the Cherera 4 was determined largely by the verdict of the Supreme Court.
Okay.
Actually, the JLAC and the Tribunal are just implementing what Supreme Court said.
The legal,
it's only that the Supreme Court could not say go, because that was not their mandate. They were just saying, yes, Chebukati was right, these are the results. The fact of denying the results is what is hanging these people. Just simple. So, because the point is, there were all those other structural issues people are raising. That was not the work of the Supreme. The issue is, what did you do? You ran away. You are announcing results until the last minute. You ran away. That was the issue the Supreme Court said. We uphold the results that announced by Chebukati. That is what is killing Cherera 4. And I can tell you this, it's just a matter of time. We have heard in this country, oh, I'm going to release a bombshell. Oh, you're going to see something you have never heard. We are waiting for it. Let it come, because we are here. We are not going to run away, because it's not going to be much. But what Irene is doing, because of course she's beholden by some political forces, she's being asked no, stand firm, so that also they don't lose face to worry. You know, it's a whole issue of political formation. But there is one quick lesson, Linda, we are going to learn. Please, we are saying this, and this one you have to say every time. The moment you pick a Bible, and of course you must be coming from a village, a clan, some political godfathers. The moment you pick a Bible, go and tell them, excuse me, I'm now serving Kenya. Can we have people with that kind of a heart? That is the biggest lesson we are taking from these people. Because listen, they are only 1 year. They were supposed to go for another 5 years. They are losing their jobs. Okay? And in a disgraceful way to that extent. Because, listen, we have to respect Supreme Court. We are watching, and I will repeat this thought so many times because this thing is going to come up in a big way in our screens. We were all waiting. We didn't know. Even me, I didn't know who between the split screen of Chebukati and Serena for were right. But the moment Supreme Court said this is right, and we went on to swear in the president, repercussions must come. So yes, we are saying Irene Masit wants to go and say all these manner of things. I'm sure the other side is ready, to prosecute the case. Everybody is going to be like a whole court, right? It's like a whole, the proceedings are going to be moved on. Everybody will have a chance. Let Kenyans hear what happened. But what we know, there's a Supreme Court. You can't go beyond the Supreme Court. Listen, you cannot go to claim things that Supreme Court ordered. If Supreme Court says this is the way and we move on, these are the results. You can't go back. You can talk about what we took tea, Chebukati did, he ordered us to usher people to go and prepare tea. All those things you can say. But what is the bottom line is that you did wrong to denounce results. that were announced by the commission. You can go and cry there and talk about how you're denied responsibilities. But the point is, this matter ought to have ended long time ago. Masit is taking her time. She's biding her time, of course, because of the forces. And please, next time, let us not mix up independent institutions with so much politics. Politics is very short-sighted. You look at the next election. Statesmanship should look at the next generation. That's one lesson we must make sure, separate, get people who will go and do the work. And I can tell you this, the Kenya Kwanza government has shown that they don't need the IBC. They don't need people who you have schooled. You can win elections if you go to the people. Yeah. So we need independent institutions to work. I wish her well. She has a right, and that's the beauty of democracy.
Right.
That's the beauty of democracy, because she has calculated well. She has made her calculations, Linda. She knows the repercussions of going to the tribunal. And she knows that if she is found guilty, she knows the repercussions. Yes. Criminal charges could be preferred against her. But the beauty about the other three, they will be called in as witnesses. Them they'll be called in, and they will not be forced to say more than they want to say. They can only say what they want to say. That's the beauty of the whole thing. So yes, we are waiting. This is democracy. This is Kenya. Let her have her day in the tribunal.
Okay, well, and we're looking forward to that, Professor, as we sum it up. 100 days. We're almost speaking about that for this government that has been reminding us constantly to allow them time to at least get their house in order. And when we get to 2023, perhaps we'll be talking about a different thing. We will not entertain this conversation of, we inherited a broke government, or, the Uhuru government. Kenyans will be expecting so much. What do you make of, the Ruto's presidency, having celebrated Jamhuri Day just the other day, and we're almost clocking 100 days into his reign, a couple of things that have already been achieved, a couple of things that have not been achieved according to their promises. They on course?
It's a mixed bag. He has tried in some areas. He's rushing a lot into things, and in the process ends up blundering.
Okay.
David said, who told him to do that, or who advised that? That sort of thing. But it's within 100 days, the notion of 100 days is copied from the Americans. We copy a lot of things from the Americans. So that within this to be done. But it's a mixed bag. I think he's done well in promoting regional peace through Uhuru Kenyatta. Using him fairly well in that. The way they are working, could not say that they were that antagonistic to each other a few months ago. So that's a good thing. I think he did well with the commission or the committee to review the education. I think that was a good start. He can do better in other areas. There are other areas that need to be reviewed properly as to what is going on, because then some blunders would be avoided. The GMO thing was, why was the rush?
Yeah.
That was the question. It's not so much whether it's good or bad, but what was the point of the rush?
Okay.
Then it made him look as if he's gullible, being pressured by some people somewhere, do this, and he goes around there. And then the Sarawi thing.
Yes.
What was that?
Then a reverse.
So that was not a good start. But the 100 days are about to be over. It's a honeymoon period is coming to an end. And so now people will start asking very hard questions about what they see. Some Muslims are complaining that somehow they would also want to go and do something in the State House. So he needs to rethink, and he needs his team to get down exactly where is the country going, or where is he taking the country, and how is he doing it, and does he have the right team? I think, going to this Masiti thing, I think it's good she wants to spill the beans.
Yes.
We don't know how big those beans are, or whatever it is. And I think her intention is not so much to be acquitted. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Because
she
just wants
that this has already been determined.
And she knows it, because but maybe it's something is eating her inside. That she saw things which she became party to that should not have been. So if somebody forced her to do that, maybe that's all she's going to say, that we were forced to, and this and this and this, and how it happened. That people speculate on that. They don't know for sure. But so she can say for sure, this is what happened. Right. That will not exonerate, because then why didn't you refuse? Or something like that. Yeah? Which leads me to the other point. We need to know what happened on that day. Yeah. In totality. Right. And that's why, in my view, we need a Kriegler type of commission. Not so much to blame somebody and say, convict this person. No. We just want to know, because we do not want such a thing to happen in the future. Everything about it.
A proper report.
A proper report. Yeah. And let the chips fall where they may. That's right. And if somehow we can get that done, we will be doing the country a favor in that regard. Yeah. And maybe, Mheshimiwa, a challenge to you, since you are there, and I'm sure you're going to be doing a good job in the 5 years. One of the things you can push for is a proper investigation of what happened on that day.
Okay. And yes, Mheshimiwa, in response to the same as well, you will be tasked at some point in time to speak on behalf of the president, on behalf of the government, as we look at 100 days into it, or as we get to the next year. And I mean, your constituents will be looking forward to hear whether indeed, we can trust and we can believe and we can hope in this very government. What do you make of it as you take up the challenge from Professor?
Let me start with the challenge from the professor, good Professor Macharia. It is good can all be I think Kenyans proved that they have moved on and they want their country back and they want to go back to their own businesses. So taking us back, I don't think it will be quite beneficial at this time. Remember, it was almost 50-50. So we would rather move on with the Kenya Kwanza policies to implement our plan than try to remind people of what happened. And that's why I'm saying Masit, up to now, will still do the country a great favor if she also decides to do the most honorable thing and resign. About the 100 days, Linda, so far so good. What did the president promise for us in cost? That the moment I put down the Bible, I return port operations to Mombasa. Did that happen? Yes. And so many other things that he had promised. The Hustler Fund is now in operation. I don't know whether Professor has tried to access.
I wanted to ask the same thing. He will tell me.
I've been thinking about it.
All right, okay.
And he had promised that the moment I put the Bible down and before the end of the year, as a government, will put 50 billion shillings into the Hustler Fund for people to access cheap credit. Is it cheap? Yes. Is it accessible? Yes. Contrary to what most people thought, that this will be more or less like a political issue. It will be vetted by those who are in government, and anybody can access that fund as a Kenyan and proceed with the economic activities that we would want to do. Within these 100 days, we are also looking at the CSS. You see, the caliber of the CSS, the caliber of the PSS. Are they able to deliver? Yes. From where I sit.
But you've also had questions, being raised about them.
Yeah.
You've had people raising concerns and questions about them.
No, it is within their own right to raise the concerns about them. There are people who wanted to be, they didn't get. There are people who didn't want others to get. Not that he wanted to be himself, but he just didn't want so and so to be there for some reasons, and that happened. But so far, so good. The caliber, the quality, it is there. About the GMO, I think this we can still give credit to the president. That yes, it was an idea for a short-term gap to bridge the gap in food security, maize the deficit. But as people talked, as he got some information, I believe from the experts and all that he consults, he said, no, let's talk. If he was a dictatorial president, having pronounced himself that I'm going to, GMO will be here through the CS, then he will still say, kwendeni mpende msipende, mahindi itaingia. But I think it's high time we also appreciate that for this particular time, we have a president who also listens. He
Right.
can say, I want this, but once the information gets to him correctly, says, no, let's do it in another way. I think that is something that we should commend the president for.
Okay.
Otherwise, so far, if you measure the pledges versus the implementation with the constraints that we are in terms of our budgetary capability, then so far so good, Linda.
Well, you will agree with me that by the time it's next year, we'll not be listening to these stories of, oh, we inherited a broke government.
Yes.
We will want you to swing into action and proper. So in about 45 seconds,
Yes.
defend your government.
No, Linda, this is what we are saying. We want to lay this structure and talk. And when we talk about governance, we won't talk even for the people who previously may not have thought maybe they supported the Kenya Kwanza government. It's good to say facts so that they can be checked. One, when we talk about 100 days, it's just a
45 seconds.
It's just a self way of trying to say how much have we done in this way. Structure of government is set, more or less. I mean, we have a whole government set and structure. President Ruto is a man on a mission. He's a man with a vision. He's a man who knows where to go and how to get there.
Yeah.
He knows that this is where he has a vision for the whole country, and he knows who to get on board. There's nothing so difficult. He knows how to go around situations and move on. Look at how he has brought together all the elected leaders. Everybody feels at home because of your position. I respect you because you are elected. Look at that. Now, things like entrenching CDF and GAF and others. He's saying, look, I'm in charge. I will not go around trying to send people to talk in barrios and public rallies in Coast and Western. I am in charge. I want you to engage on this matter. And he's saying, kindly engage. The issues of few opposition. What did we see with BBI? I mean, the president and the ODM leader created a group that went around for 2 years. But it is them who wanted some changes. What has the president done? Just like directly to the parliament and say, let's cut the corners. Just discuss this. Tell me whether it is doable. Tell the Kenyans, engage. Right now the committees are working. Look at that. That's somebody who is decisive. You don't want to hide and say, oh, I don't want, but because I'm fearing.
Dr. We have to sum it up.
So yes. So what am I saying? The president is doing very well. Actually, in terms of achievements and passion and the intent, is about 90%. He surpassed some of the things that he was supposed to have been done. The foundation is set. The things can only get better. That's my position.
We are watching Dr. Peter Mbai, governance expert, Honorable Kasim Sawa Tandaza, Member of Parliament of Matuga, as well as Professor Macharia Munene, Foreign and